Last weekend, I attempted the 100k at Ultra-Trail Snowdonia, and I didn't make it to the finish line. So today, I'm going to talk you through the course, which is absolutely epic, and I'm going to dismantle why I DNF'd because it's a bit of a weird one and it's still playing on my mind. But I'm also going to tell you what's coming up next for me and the channel. So let's get into it. So the 100k starts early in the morning. They now have two waves. I was in the 4:45 a.m. wave, and then there's another wave at 5 a.m. We set out of Clamberis. The sun is just starting to come up, or at least the sky is starting to change. And then we head to the Clamberis path, and it's an easy climb, but it's long, a couple of steep sections, nothing to write home about. The big difference between doing the 100k and the 50k that I did last year is that this time you're greeted with the sunrise. And it was beautiful. It was a real gift to see these amazing views with the beautiful sunrise. You work your way up to Finger Point before turning left down the pig track. The pig track is one of those places in Snowdon where you just have to keep your wits about you the whole time. You have to look at every foot placement. It's very uneven. You can't lose your concentration for a second, otherwise you'll twist your ankle. And you just wiggle your way down to Penny Pass at the bottom, which is the first aid station and just a water station. It's great to enjoy that first climb, see the sunrise, but it's a time to settle in, let your nerves settle, let the pack spread out a little bit. So by the time you start off into the second climb, everything should just be a little bit more settled in your body and your mind. That's a good thing because the second climb, Glider 4, is tough. It's very steep and it just seemed to go on for a long time. That was the first time that I got some clues that maybe my body wasn't firing on all cylinders. I'd come into the race with a chest infection and it was definitely still lingering, so I wasn't feeling great going up those steep climbs and I couldn't really catch my breath. It was, however, beautiful, and we were greeted with some amazing views at the top before going down into the second descent. Now, I'd been told before this race that this really is one of the toughest parts of the race. It's a very steep downhill with lots of loose scree and slate, and you really have to keep your wits about you. I fell over a couple of times, so did pretty much everybody. When you get to the bottom of the second descent, there's a run around a lake before doing another climb, and then you get to the second aid station. The heat had been building, so I had about 20 pieces of watermelon at that second aid station. I took my time, topped up my fuel, tried to cool down a bit before heading out into Carneth Quellen. This is another monster climb, and it had a few quite technical scrambles in it. This is one of the scrambles I could film, but this was the easiest one. All the other scrambles I needed to use two hands. I was going to try and film them, but I could picture the headline already. Idiot YouTuber dies trying to film himself on a scramble. I didn't want to be that guy, so I didn't film. I needed two hands on the rock. Once you make it to the summit, there's a ridge with beautiful views. Some of the most beautiful views were behind me, looking back at the Snowdon Range. You could see the sea out to the left, down in the valleys to the right, and it just felt a real joy to be running along that ridge. Eventually I made it down Carneth Quellen, and at the bottom there, that's where Aid Station 3 should have been. Now, they had to take it out because they couldn't get access to the farm, so they pushed it much further along, 8k or so further along, and turned a full aid station into a water aid station. We were prepared for this and we were told about it, and we were told to stock up more at aid station 2, but here I have to go on a little rant, and I don't normally do this, but this was dangerous and people need to know about it. Hitting the bottom of that climb was the hottest part of the day. Although we'd really topped up at aid station 2, I still got through a full bladder and both bottles, 3 litres of water. It just so happens that the time that I ran out was when we were going around a reservoir, and we still had quite a few miles to go. Because we were in a bowl made by the mountains, there was no wind and it was incredibly hot. And because it was flat, there was no running water. I came prepared with a water filter this year, hoping to be able to top up. But at this point, there was nothing to top up in. It kind of felt okay because we knew that there was the water station soon ahead, but when we got there, they had run out of water. We were told that it was 50 minutes to wait for more water. I just knew that I wouldn't be able to get to the next aid station without it. That it was that dangerous. I felt so dehydrated. So I just had to wait for 50 minutes and wait for the water to arrive. Some of the people I was with who had also been struggling, also dehydrated, they pushed on and they ended up so dehydrated that they DNF'd straight away when they got to Capel Curig. There was a lot of controversy last year around water, and UTS got a lot of stick for it, so I was convinced that they were going to get it right this year. Especially when they moved a full aid station to turn it into a water station and had to push it so far ahead. They really only had one thing to get right, and that was to have enough water at that point. This was an example of where they got it wrong. Okay, rant over. Thankfully, that was the only negative I need to talk about of the day. But I still wasn't feeling great. That long stretch dehydrated really knocked me. And in my mind, I really wasn't sure if I was going to leave aid station 4. Thankfully, I got chatting to a couple of people and they were in exactly the same boat. So we made a pact. If I was going to leave, they were going to leave, and vice versa. So we egged each other on and left aid station 4 together for the climb up Mol Shabod. I was going to DNF at Capel Curig because I felt horrendous, but so did these guys, Becca and Sam, and we're egging each other on to get to Gwastadanas farm. So, strength in numbers. How you feeling?
Better than I was.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now that we're moving.
Yeah.
Moving is good.
Mol Shabod felt like a real gift because we were climbing it at sunset. It was just so beautiful. I actually came into this race expecting to be climbing Snowdon for the second time at sunset, and I was just so much slower than I expected throughout the whole day. I think the heat and my lungs not firing really had slowed me down. But still, I got to see the sunset in the mountains, and that was one of the things I was really excited about experiencing that day. The climb of Mol Shabod is not too technical, it's quite steep, but nothing to write home about. And then you're gifted with a really runnable downhill towards Gwastadanas farm, which gets you ready for the next climb up Snowdon. I actually just got a little rhythm and I found myself running quite fast down that hill towards the 5th aid station. So that's where I stopped at 63k at Gwastadanas farm. And now I need to talk about why I DNF'd. And it's a weird one, and my brain has been in this big ball of confusion for the last few days. Normally when a race goes this way, you come away with a pacing or a nutrition or a training plan lesson, but I actually think I got those things right. On this occasion, I just came into it with a virus that had really knocked my energy. My bones were tired. And when it got really tough, I wasn't willing to surrender myself to the race. I wasn't willing to give it everything. Coming into that aid station, I reflected back on the day and I had had such a good day. I'd seen the sunrise, I'd seen the sunset, I'd spoken to some amazing people around the route. I achieved many of the things I wanted to achieve in the race, and I felt okay with calling it. However, a few days out from the race now, I realized I wasn't entirely clear on my purpose going into the race. In one sense, we do these hard things to really test ourselves. And I know from experience that when you push through the hardest of hardships, that's what leads to crying tears of joy on the finish line. And I didn't experience that this time. On that day, I wasn't willing to push through at the expense of my health. I felt like I could have done. I felt like it was possible to get to that finish line. But I took the option where I had had fun, but I could move on with my life, not having completely ruined myself. I think in the end, it just wasn't my day to get to the finish line, and I've got to accept it and move on. So what's next? Well, in this training block, I have truly prioritized strength just as much as I've prioritized running. And that's the first time I've ever done that. I programmed myself 2 strength sessions a week and I did them every single week throughout the entire block. I really enjoyed that and it did make me feel really good. So I want to explore what it's like to go further into strength while trying to maintain my endurance fitness. I really think there's a magic formula in having endurance cardio plus strength. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip how much I spend my time on each thing. Recently, I've been trying to spend more time running so that I can build my endurance fitness. And 2 strength sessions a week has kept me strong, but it's only really been at a maintenance level. Now I'm going to switch it so that I do more strength training to try and gain new levels of strength while doing slightly less running, maintaining as much cardio as I can without trying to gain and really push myself for a while. So I'm going to share that journey with you guys. I'm going to come up with some strength goals, and hopefully by sharing that journey, it helps you stay strong and protect your bodies as well. I'm not entirely sure how helpful this video has been, but I hope you learned something, and until next time, happy training.